I'm Justin.
And we are managers of the Collection of Vertebrates at Oklahoma State University. Welcome! Today we're going to talk to you about our small natural history museum hidden within the confines of Life Sciences West. Our roles within the collection are collection managers, but there are so many other things that happen within the collection, and there are different roles that other people play to make the collection run successfully.
The curator role is the role filled by faculty that oversees the collection. And these individuals are the ones that are most responsible for each of the taxonomic groups and the ones that are going to have the most taxonomic knowledge of the specimens. These individuals are going to be up to date on the naming conventions and how the specimens are being classified.
As collection managers, the curators of the museum are the ones in charge, and we like to follow their lead. Our roles within the collection is that we oversee the day-to-day handling of all of the animal specimens here. We also have a role in being teaching assistants, so we mentor undergrads throughout the collection of vertebrates. Additionally, we handle loans, so if you end up taking a class like mammalogy, you might see some of the animal specimens from our collection. Another role we have is that we correspond with other institutions, natural history museums, and scientists to exchange information like data and loans.
And the last group of people that is the most important to the collections are the undergraduates that come in and help. The undergraduates are responsible for helping us all maintain the collections and keep everything running as they should. Without them, we wouldn't be able to go through all of the specimens and make sure that the collection is being maintained. These undergraduates come to us through volunteers after having taken a tour, or they even enroll in what is called Biology 4700 credit here at OSU that allows them to have a research experience as part of their degree. Ultimately, our goal in the collection of vertebrates is to preserve animals across history. And we want to preserve both the specimens and the data associated with them. Our primary goal in the collection of vertebrates is teaching and research.
So we offer specimens through teaching. These help to build on the students' knowledge of vertebrate structure, as well as identification of certain animals. Some of these classes that use our collections are mammalogy,
herpetology,
ornithology,
ichthyology,
and many more. These classes provide students with hands-on knowledge for identification. We also have interdisciplinary classes that use these. We do tours within classes of our museum, and we participate in a lot of outreach events, including summer activities for camps, as well as educational instruction for elementary children.
That said, the predominant role of the collection is research. The vast majority of our specimens are dedicated to that purpose, and all of our specimens are available for researchers to use. They can request data about the individual specimens or groups of specimens. They can request what our holdings are of certain species or groups, and they can even borrow the specimens and even in some cases destroy them if the research is of a destructive nature.
The Collection of Vertebrates is a small natural history museum within Oklahoma State University. We have tons of animal specimens for you to see. Out of our collection, we have almost 15,000 cataloged mammal specimens, including representative specimens from every continent except for Antarctica. We cover specimens from every state within the United States, and we also have specimens from every county within Oklahoma. This includes representative specimens from every order within Mammalia except for 3. We also have about 2,500 bird specimens within our collection, and we also have a small egg collection, including 300 different clutch samples.
We have about 7,500 amphibians, including Sicilians, not the Italians, frogs, and salamanders. We have about 5,700 reptiles, including snakes, turtles, and lizards. And we have about 30,000 lots of fish. Lots being groups of individual species that were collected at one point in time.
That's a lot of fish.
Overall, with those 30,000 lots, we have about 800,000 specimens of fish.
Bringing our grand total of animals to around.
Pretty close to 1 million.
We also have a frozen tissue collection. These are specimens taken mostly from mammals of their tissue, although we have other holdings as well. These are kept at -80 degrees Celsius, and we have over 9,000 specimens.
The collection started in 1932 by George Moore when he convinced several faculty members to donate their personal collections to form what is now known as the Collection of Vertebrates.
Over the years, the holdings of our collection were expanded with help from Dr. Brian Glass, who was influential in diversifying our holdings. One such thing that he did was travel all around the world, and he was responsible for bringing back a large collection from Ethiopia. More recently, our former curator, Dr. Karen McBee, has been very helpful in expanding the collection, as well as getting grants to update a lot of our equipment around us. So thanks to Karen, we have been able to renovate and reinvigorate our holdings. One of the additional roles we have as collection manager is to work with the curator to help identify and then label and number all of the specimens within our collection. You can see here at the top, this is the catalog number. So this is like a big library system, and this identifies this specimen out of our entire collection. You can also see here that we have the species identification. This is generally written in pencil, As science often changes, so does our knowledge of taxonomy. In addition to these data, collectors usually write down information such as the length and weight of the animals, and they may also write information about the location and date the animals were collected, their specific collection number, the sex of the animal, and who the collector was. This information is then recorded in our main catalogs, and it might be uploaded into a digitized version to help promote the sharing across different institutions. When cataloging animals, not only are they assigned numbers, but the associated skeletal material is also assigned that same number, and the number is written with archival ink special to bone directly on the surface. One of the goals within the collection of vertebrates is to preserve our specimens for as long as we can. And especially for the mammal collection, one of the ways we can do this is through our integrative pest management system. If you were able to be present with me in this room right now, you might notice that the air is slightly cooler than the rest of the building. This helps to cut down on any pests that might decide to enter this room. In addition, we have special filter systems on our lights to cut down on UV rays, which may be damaging to furs. And we also implement pest management strategies like the use of mothballs and sticky traps in our collection to prevent damage from insects that result in specimens like this. This is a cottontail rabbit, and this is what it used to look like.
Any specimens from the dry collection that do leave and come back are always placed in a walk-in freezer to kill off any insects or eggs that may have been laid inside them. In the wet collections, we preserve our specimens a little bit differently. Because the specimens are in a fluid, we don't have to worry about them desiccating in the same way or having insects eating them. But instead we have to worry about things like molds that can grow inside the liquid. We do need to monitor the jars though to make sure that the liquid is not evaporating out of the jar. The liquid is actually 45% isopropyl or 70% ethanol, depending on the jar and the specimen that was preserved. Many people believe that we actually preserve the specimens in formalin. This is not true though, because one, keeping everything in formalin would be very carcinogenic and harmful to those handling them every day. It would also cause a specimen to become rubbery as the bone binds with the formalin at a molecular level. We have many different kinds of specimens in the collection, but one of our most important kinds are our type specimens, or these ones with this red ribbon around the jar. The reason why type specimens are so important is because they're used as the reference material that scientists use to describe what it is to be that species. For example, these specimens were collected from Nepal by Dr. David Eds and brought back here to be identified and cataloged. He had noticed that several specimens were not known to science and wrote up species descriptions based on the individuals in these jars.
We have a lot of really interesting specimens within the collection of vertebrates. Some of my favorite are the mammals. This specimen here is a platypus. If you take any of our mammalogy classes offered in the spring semester, this is one of the specimens you might see and learn about. We also have an echidna specimen. These animals are cool because they're from Australia, and we're able to do exchanges with other countries that have bountiful amounts of these unique specimens. One of the things we can provide these other countries are armadillos. This specimen is a dictic. It's a really tiny little deer. We also have a lot of carnivore specimens. In our skeletal room, we have plenty of bear skulls. This drawer right here represents a grizzly bear. We have a polar bear. We have brown bears. There's plenty of interesting carnivores within our skeletal room. We also have plenty of primate specimens. We have both of the skins and the skeletal material, mostly in skull form, depending on the size of the primate.
This is a great horned owl. Notice the tufts on the top of its head that gives it its name. And next to it is actually a northern pygmy owl. This owl is an adult for its species and doesn't actually get any bigger than this. The collections gives us the ability to compare these two side by side without actually having to catch them in the wild. We can also do this in many other species. Another example is with northern flickers. These two individuals are actually of the same species. The yellow shafts occur more eastern, while the red shafts occur more western. Another cool thing about the collections is you also get to see things that you didn't know existed, like this painted bunting that can be found breeding here in Oklahoma during the summer. Who said colorful birds had to be tropical? Next, let's look at a couple turtles. This first one is an alligator snapping turtle, while the second one is a common snapping turtle. Each are different species and can be found here in Oklahoma. Snapping turtles can be easily recognized by their strong serrated ridges along their backs. One of the great things about collections is that we can put different species side by side and make comparisons of the two and determine what actually makes up the difference between the two species. Next, let's check out this guy. Now, I bet a lot of you are thinking that this is some kind of snake, because you notice there are no limbs on it, and it's just a long cylindrical animal with scales. But you would be wrong. This is actually a glass lizard. If we can get zoomed in, you can kind of still see how it has eyelids, something that snakes lack. Here's a really cool specimen we have. This is a Draco. A Draco is more commonly known as a flying lizard, and I'll show you why. It has these modified ribs that act as wings that it can use to glide through the air. If we flip them over, you can see how it's a part of the ribs a little bit better. Normally, this wing structure is actually pretty colorful in like yellows and oranges, but because of being in the alcohol, the colors fade over time. Next, let's take a look at a snake. This is a hognose snake, known for its hog-like nose. See, if we flip it over here, you can see how the front of the nose is curved up a little bit, and that helps them shovel through the ground. But that's not even one of the cooler things about this snake. One of the cool things about this snake is its defense mechanism. These snakes are also known for playing dead when threatened, and they will take this upside down pose to feign death.
of my favorite animals within the collection is the eastern mole, Scalopus aquaticus. These animals are really cool. As you can see, their hands are turned to the side. This helps them to dig as fast as they can and move as much dirt. You can see their fur is very thick. And one really cool thing about these guys is their fur moves equally as well back to front if you pet it, and front to back. This helps them to back out of any holes they might make without getting stuck. Here's an example of one of our taxidermy mount specimens. We call this fellow Pangolin Pete. He's a pangolin. Pangolins live in Southeast Asia and in Africa, and this specimen was donated from the Oklahoma City Zoo. These are pretty endangered. Their scales are used in Eastern medicine, and these fellows are often trafficked by poachers. In addition to our marine mammal cabinet, sometimes we are able to collect full skeletons. This room contains boxes of full skeletons of manatees. We do have a lot of bats in our collection. This particular species is known as the Mexican free-tailed bat due to the shape of its tail. These are really cool, and in Oklahoma, the bat species that we have are all insectivores. They're very important to our environment. They help to balance our insect and mosquito populations, so they're very beneficial.